This is Team Left Jab Uncensored. Anything goes. No limits and no rules. Political correctness is not welcome here. Powered by the Team Left Jab United Radio Network. Counterculture and in your face. LeftJabAllNightBoxing.com.
Yeah, how you doing, Tony?
I am just fine. I am actually sitting inside of my car, so I'm on one of these speaker things and the Bluetooth, and I'm just getting used to all this because it's a new car.
All right. Excellent. So how you been? It's been a little while since we talked.
Again, man, I feel even better than I did last time because I'm hearing from you again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I always love having you on. I'm looking forward to having you on a more regular basis now with the new setup that I have. So yeah, it's going to be fun. You know, the interviews with you are always great, and I look forward to having plenty more of them with you. Now, first off, though, like, what have you been up to? You know, since you've come back to the United States.
I did a couple of shots for Matt Tremont's H2O. That'll always be a home, and now they're bringing in my boss. You know, I was in the middle of negotiating with Onita to bring him back to the States. So, you know, that's always exciting. Always talking to Onita, always talking to his girlfriend, keeping in constant communication with them and letting them know when I'm returning to Japan. And, I mean, the ball's really rolling this time. It's like dates are starting to fill up immediately from the moment that I get there. So it's going to be, like, so much more fun. This one's, like, completely an adventure because I just keep finding, like, more obscure and tinier indies, and it's so much fun. I can't even begin to explain to anybody what it's like to walk into some place, you're brand new, you're showing up for the first time, and, like, all the younger guys, like, know who you are, and you're like, so what do you guys do at this place? Like, show me around, you know?
Yeah. It's a hot time for wrestling right now. It almost feels like I never really felt like that wrestling was out or was on a downside or anything like that. But it goes through its peaks and valleys. And you know, with the, you know, WWE seems like it's kind of getting back on track, and AEW is out there, so they kind of had to get back on track. And you know, all the overseas wrestling and the indie scene is still very strong. It's a good time for wrestling right now. Is that the vibe you're getting too?
Yeah, I mean, wrestling in an incarnation is always going to survive. I mean, if all else fails, worst case scenario, it would fall by the wayside like roller derby. But people are always trying to bring that back. I just had a fly. You know, you asked me what I do in my time. I work a regular job here stateside, and I cater food. And even at like our restaurant, up for distribution was all these flyers for like roller derby. So I got very interested, and I looked it up online, and you know, I'm like, at least these people are promoting and they're pushing. They handed like a bunch of flyers to us over at the main restaurant that they cook all the food at. So I mean, I always get excited. Like, you know, there's the possibilities of wrestling are endless. You know, and it's so people curse out like the millennials, and I think it's like the coolest thing. Like, those are the type of people that'll understand your bar championship wrestling, like wrestling hosted without a ring at a bar. And you asked what I'd been up to. I mean, I did the thing with Cassanova Valentine. I you know, a lot of people credit me with being the very first to bring all that no ring atmosphere and chaos, you know, stateside. But at the time, nobody knew what they were watching. So
yeah, and you know, just before I get to that, I actually want to talk about that match because I saw that and I actually have that bookmarked. It's an amazing match. I really loved it. Roller derby is interesting because roller derby, I remember, you know, I'm 44 years old now. It was kind of, you know, kind of over, I guess, you know, as I was growing up. It was more of a, I guess, 60s, 70s, but it was always a fun atmosphere. And like you said, they've tried to bring it back a few times, different, you know, kind of variations of it and stuff like that, but I don't know if it would ever catch on again. That was a different time, but I always found it to be kind of fun.
I always find it in the same realm as professional wrestling. Like, it's this clearly work thing where guys and girls are taking big bumps, and you know, you got to respect that, and you got to be in some damn shape to like get around that track the way that they do. I'm always like fascinated by other like arts like that. You know, to me, that's a fine art to me. You know, I mean, I guess like art, millennials, those are all like buzzwords in this day and era, but like that stuff had always been like lurking and kind of hanging around.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you actually are right about saying how, you know, it's kind of similar to wrestling, because I can't tell you what it was because it was so long ago, but I remember watching, you know, one of the, when they tried to really revamp it, a show or a federation or something like that. And all the participants like had characters, and it almost reminded me of wrestling. You know, they had personalities, and they were feuding with, you know, others on the, you know, on the roller derby track and all that stuff like that. So it does have, you know, a parallel to wrestling. You're right.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of gimmickry and everything, and you know, there's all kinds of angles that they do within there too. And to me, you know, if it all falls under that same umbrella, like, what would be the difference then? You know, it's almost, right. I hate to overanalyze, but like, you tell me what the difference is between people doing like a work match inside of a ring versus outside of and or no ring, or a wild brawl that takes place, or, you know, I just love the whole, and it loses so much in the translation with the Japanese indies when they do stuff like that. Like, here's like a brilliant example, okay? And like night one for the 666 dojo, we did a show inside the dojo, and, you know, I did the whole Leatherface thing where I came out, and there was Chainsaw Tony. And then the next night, we were gay invading alien zombies that started out on the rooftop and made our way into the building to fight these guys in their dojo. And the whole point of the match was to get them in the same flesh-colored trunks to turn them into gay zombies like us. And we had females. Yeah, we had females with us too that were trying to get trying to de-pants the girls and get them to transfer over to what we were. It's like stuff like that. Like that would get so lost upon, and it's got such a huge cult appeal over there. And you see the same fans that come out, and you're like, okay, they get it, and that's cool. To me, stuff like that still falls under the realm of professional wrestling. Like, you know, it's just bizarre in its nature, but to me, that's what makes it so much fun.
But we kind of see that a little bit over here as well. I mean, you know, with the Joey Ryan stuff, with the penis, you know, act that he does, and I can't remember the girl's name, the female wrestler who kind of did some kind of vulgar things, but you know, it's not traditional, we'll say. But then, you know, you always got to deal with Cornette and guys like that always, you know, really put it down and, you know, spend all day arguing with the fans over it. So there is some, you know, non-traditional things here in the States as well that they try. Doesn't mean it's going to make it a WWE, but it is out there.
Yeah, I mean, WWE's even, you know, taking the whole Iron Heavy Metalweight title, you know, the Anytime 24/7 and all that stuff. You know, that's just an old recycled idea from the DDT promotion where inanimate objects would win the title too. And for traditionalists, you know, I'm one of those traditionalists. I had my debut match in 1989. I was 15. So, you know, I've lived through that whole decade of just, you know, these kids are doing too much and they're ruining the business. And I always looked at it like, you know, you always hear all the old timers trashing into Flair and Steamboat because back in the day, them kids are doing too damn much, right?
Right.
And like Jim Cornette himself had to stand there as Bobby Eaton, you know, like old timers were losing it because they're like, why is that guy jumping off the ropes? He's not near the main event, you know. It's like he himself lived. I understand clinging to the glory of the old tradition of wrestling, but like. And the origins of it, and he's great. He's a walking encyclopedia. I've had my ups and downs with Jim over the years. It's just like, you know, but I do realize, man, wrestling has got to move on. Like 2019, what you're seeing on TV, that's the way it has to be. Yeah. Wrestling had to move on from, you know, I'm sorry, I love wrestling more than anybody, but if you watch some of those matches from the late 70s, you're like, geez, these are just two lazy slobs that don't want to do anything. You know, you can't tell me any different. I know what I'm watching.
Yeah.
I know what I'm watching.
Yeah, you're right. You know, when you watch some of those matches from the 70s, even if you're a fan of that particular wrestler, you know, and there's like a 10-minute bear hug and then, an arm bar for 4 minutes, and, you kind of realize that it was a 20-minute match, but, how much action really was there. And that's interesting, that every generation, I guess, looks back, at his generation and feels that it was better than what's currently happening. Even Flair and Steamboat, like you said, was mocked by the generation before that as doing too much. And we look back at that now as, the greatest of times for wrestling, that we may never see again.
Yeah. I take and I didn't even ask for permission on this. I take your audio and I upload it onto the video, the 4-hour video condensed, so everything's like in fast forward. But you can look through there and you can see like the highlights from 2018, the last year I was in Japan. Some of that stuff is like really ultra bizarre. I mean, there's clips of me at the strip club. We were in a Japanese strip club in Isesaki City, and me and Naoshi Sano wrestled each other, and then they had like a tag match come back. And you see us like brawling amongst the strippers who are running around screaming and stuff. Like,
right.
Nobody can tell me that's not fun or professional wrestling. Like, I have a blast doing stuff like that, and then I'm outside for 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm outside for 20 minutes chasing around cars going, come into wrestling, come on. That was just the second match. There's plenty more in there. Come on,
Yeah.
I don't, even if I go to jail, hey, man, any way I could get that promotion over. Like, right. I owe WWS, World Wing Spear, the late Mr. Polo's old promotion. I owe those guys a lot, man. They're taking some goofy kid from East Hanover, New Jersey, and they're flying him over to Japan, and then, yeah, they got to loan me out to other promotions to help chip in and pay for the airline ticket. Like, I owe a lot to people like that. Like, just the treatment over the years that Onita has shown me has been like, dude, I owe you my life. I was paying $80 for a VHS tape with you on it, with people worshiping you and myself as well, and now I'm hand in hand. I'm everywhere you are, man. Like,
yeah,
you get to wrestle your hero and idol every night, and he respects your work ethic, and he gets me booked a lot of other places. All the stuff works hand in hand from the minute I go over there. But boy, did I go off the subject and ramble. But I guess what I'm trying to say in a good nutshell is, man, I'm just so thankful. I'm at my happiest over there. Everybody sees it in my eyes,
Yeah, as far as Onita goes, what's the latest on that? You mentioned earlier, and I've actually seen it, on social media and stuff like that. That he's coming back here. Where is he going to be performing? Appearing, I should say.
Well, I'll go through a lot of detail, but like I'm not at liberty to discuss like all the inner workings of H2O's like business because that's not, but they're trying to arrange for an explosive death match with Onita and Tremont, and this time,
right,
all cylinders will fire. It's like last minute, 2 weeks leading into that thing with DJ Hyde and Onita and Tremont, the very first one. Within 2 weeks of it, I'm getting phone calls nonstop from people like, you need to fix this. Like you need to, they have to really, one of them was the late Satoshi. He passed away. He wrestled as Wild 7, but everybody knows him, Satoshi. But like he himself was calling me up frantic going, you know how bad we're going to look? You know how bad FMW is going to look? You know how bad Onita is going to look if this doesn't fix itself? He's like, this is bad. He's like, this needs to be fixed. And what they don't, what I was telling him, what a lot of people didn't realize is that stuff would be on the ring truck with us. They would have a separate truck on tours for FMW where somebody would transport all the explosives and all the weaponry. Like that, you know what I mean? They had an entire crew that was being paid well to do that and well to drive us from, in the tour bus and everything. So, they were really on the ball with that. But, I'm so grateful of everything. I guess I come across as a bigger, mark than the fans, but I don't, it doesn't bother me, man. I'm at my happiest, and I know why.
No, I definitely understand, and it's funny because when you think back to that, everybody was looking forward to that. Tremont versus Onita. Tremont spent so much time, building that up, calling Onita out, and it finally happened. And wasn't the location part of the problem? Like they couldn't really do a lot of the stuff because of that. And I know there was some malfunctions too, where everything just didn't work right, and they just didn't know how to do it. I don't think, but I think the location is always an issue here in the United States. You just can't do what they do in Japan anywhere here, right?
Yeah, and where are you going to go to get a bomb built? Something that explodes like that. Like,
right.
A guy, believe it or not, one of the biggest helps, one of the guys that knows how to do that kind of stuff is John Zandig himself. Like, that guy, he can't build the great big ones, the great big explosives, but what he could do is passable. You know what I mean? Like, right. You have to have people like that around you. Like, any kind of, that's why I always ask people what they do for a living, like when I meet them. Like, any kind of contractor is so valuable and can help you out. And I know that they're not part of wrestling, but my God, in just everyday life, those people know, so much about
right.
houses. My father himself and my brother both, they're plumbers and firefighters. So, I never took into consideration just how, like, if you try to draw a straight line, imagine roofers do that nonstop and with ease. You ask me to draw a straight line, I don't know. I can tell you how to get more bookings in Japan, but I can't tell you that.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting. We have to see how that turns out. It definitely should be bigger and better than the last one. Are you going to be there for that when it happens? I'm sure you will, right?
Yeah, likely I will. I missed the thing with Onita coming into GCW. I was still over in Japan, and Onita goes, "There's no use for you to," and he had gotten his knees. He had double knee surgery in the midst of this, so he wasn't physically able to wrestle. So,
right.
But with my dealings with that and dealing with Joey Janela, he was just so cordial and courteous. I've known Joey going back to Banditos when he was like a teenager.
Yeah.
So, I never had my finger on the pulse of wrestling and the wrestling industry, but I know enough to know who's my friend and who has an agenda and who to look out for.
Yeah. Well, you must be happy that Joey Janela's, finally getting his due, going to AEW.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll say another name just out of the blue here. There was a whole situation with Sami Callihan and his wedding and everything and me bailing out. But Alex Colon himself, here's like a guy who has just worked his hardest and busted his ass. Now he's getting to go over to Japan. He asked me what the state of the indies was over there, and I said, listen, here's what you do. You go to Sano's bar and just sit there and just analyze. And the place is a rotating door of wrestling promoters in and out all night long. Same with the guy that owns Big Bear Produce. Like, he gets wrestlers in there nonstop. They see you sitting there. They're like, oh, man, how much longer? That's right. How much longer are you going to be in Japan? Listen, I got a friend that wants to book you. He owns this, does that. And
right.
That's just the way that things work over there. It's just and still being a part of it is, to me, like the funnest thing in the world.
Yeah. So the opportunities come right to you if you're there.
Yeah, and like October 16th I leave. October 17th I arrive there. I got a couple independents, and then I got to do WWS is running. See, they run Kagahara and Kumagaya outside of like running 2 different spots in Isesaki City, plus all of their the female promotion, and that's CPE, the Cat Fighting Entertainment, which Miss Mongol books, and
right.
And then like that they have like Yappy, which is like so strange. It takes place in like random ballrooms and stuff like that, and they have some of the cat fighting with the women. So WWS alone is enough to keep me like really busy. But and man, they bring you out to hostess bars afterwards. Oh my God, you've never seen crazier. There's karaoke, there's food everywhere, there's these gorgeous women serving you drinks, and they're like, I'll give you a massage sitting here, man. It ain't no thing.
Awesome. So you going back to Japan in October 16th, you said?
Yeah, October, and I arrive October 17th, and then I got Eagle coming up, and then Shinjuku Mat Ward Pro Wrest. And that place is a blast too. But like a couple more things, and then it leads to WWS. Oh, what was the date on it? The 20th of October is another one of their huge. And the coolest thing is I put pictures of it because I take these pictures and I'm just blown away. How an indie who runs in Kumagaya once a year, because they got Kagahara that they do once a year also. But for an indie to do like 1,400 people just packed out is like, and it's like the coolest venue ever. And
yeah,
I'll never forget it because when Pogo brought back the leather thing for me, it was like all this bizarre pressure. They put me in there with one of the young guys, the Kiriyama guy, that or kid pretty much he was. But he's like, this guy's like 4 years in, and I'm like, if I can't have a good match with this young guy, like this guy can do everything.
Right.
So it's like, I like going into it, that building has like sentimental meaning to me because like I felt that I nailed that. And it's like some of the old Team No Respect guys, like Kanemaru's guys, were coming out to me left and right going, man, you had the match of the night. And I'm like so blown away and humbled by it. And the whole time going into it, Pogo was like teasing me. He goes, you're a wuss. You ain't going to do no moonsault from no top rope. And you and I both know that. He's like, you're old. Your knees are beat up. Your back is bad. You're not going to do that. And I'm like, I know what you're doing. You're just goading me into shit. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love when
we're
we're sitting there like, Onita seldomly speaks English to me. And we're sitting there one night and he goes, can you do, he was like thinking of a finish to do. And he was talking about where I dragged Pandita in the ring. And I thought that was in Utsunomiya. That was up at the beer garden. And he goes, you're basically dragging him in the ring. He goes, after a moonsault, I'm going to like, and he never like speaks English. So this
right.
just freaked me out because I was like, wow, why are you speaking English? And he goes, I love the way he looked up at me, cornered his eyes, and he goes, can you do 2 moonsault? And I was like, what am I going to do with the second moonsault? And he goes, oh yeah, and then you cover him 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on. I'm like, I was like looking around as I was pinning Pandita. I was like looking around. I'm going, I know that they're going to break up the pinfall. This is just a big rib. There's no way they're going to make me like beat Onita and Onita guy like that. That never happens.
Right. That's awesome. I wanted to look back. You mentioned it earlier. That match that you had with Cassanova, that was unbelievable. I actually have that, like I said before, I have it bookmarked on my computer. That was an unbelievable scene. Give us the details on that. Like what was that? Was that like in a bar or something? You guys were like, you had the people all around you. It looked like it was so hard to move, yet you guys were getting it working. That
might be the most fun I've had in a long, long time.
It was like fun. It was hot girls and everything.
Yeah, he had a couple of the guys from the UK. He had the guy that he was going to do the death match with. That was WrestleMania weekend. He had the guy call out and go, hey, man, I can't make my plane, da-da-da. So 2 days before, he was like, hey, Tony, I need you. I don't mean no disrespect. You were like my choice a long time ago. And I was like, no, tell me what you need. Tell me what you got to do. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's what it is, man. I'm going to need you in Brooklyn Friday night. And then he, like, knocked out the money and everything. And I'm like, you know, something like it went through my head. Just give him the friggin' money back and tell him, dude, I sold enough shirts. I am so, like, this was so much fun. Did you see the botch moonsault that I did?
Oh, yeah. I saw everything.
Yeah, and it was like, I didn't even hit that fucker straight because there was like a 2x4 that was sticking up, like by my heels. And I was like, oh, man, I go, if I go straight back, I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to clip my heels. I can't stand on them because I'm wearing actual boots. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to click my heel on the damn board, and I'm going straight down on my head. I already know it. And I was like, all right, to save myself being bad, I totally Terry Funk moonsaulted it and then friggin' hit him sideways. And I felt so bad when I landed on him. I was like, oh, you can see me crawling over to him in the video. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. Oh, my God, I'm an asshole. I'm like, I was like, so botchamania shit right there.
Oh man, I'm actually, as we're talking about this, I'm looking at some of the pictures on your Facebook of it, and it's unbelievable. I mean, there's barbed wire. The crowd is literally, I mean, they can literally walk between you. That they're right on you. You know, the referee has goggles on and gloves because of the barbed wire. I guess everybody's bleeding. There's wood everywhere, like plywood and stuff. Unbelievable setting.
The worst was when I hit the barbed wire board. It was like, a broken half, so the jagged edge stuck in the ground. Yeah, and you could see me hanging by my hair, and you see the referee frantically because, like, there's no way you could pull yourself up. You're already, like, in almost like a seated position. So there's no way you could push yourself up. You can't get your feet up underneath you because of how the board is inclined, right?
Right.
So you could see them, like, frantically, and you could see me, like, well, it's just hair, because like nobody believes that's my real hair anyway. You know,
they think it's part of the mask, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is when you point out to the Japanese, especially the little Japanese girls, they start braiding it, they start putting their hands in it, and you're like, ew, I'm all sweaty and gross, and their parents will say to you, they'll be like, yo, my kid was freaked out, didn't want to come over here. But when they saw that you were like a nice guy, and then like they get a stunned look on their face, and they're like, "You're speaking Japanese," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm aware of that. I have to. I'm in Japan. Like, this is your country, your culture. I don't belong here,
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Murder Mania. It was at the Lucky 13 Saloon. I'm also looking at a picture here of. What was this white thing? It looked like, what was it, like a dummy, like a doll, a dummy, right? That they put barbed wire around, it looks like, and stuff from a store or something, like a department store?
Yeah, and he wrapped up the mannequin like in barbed wire. Yeah. So that thing could come at you any minute. The only thing dangerous about those matches is not getting cut up because you could see, like, my arms were just a mess.
Yeah.
Like, so, which, I mean, anybody listening knows how wrestling is. It's me. It's not that I like to cut myself. It's just, hey, let's get some blood flowing here.
Yeah.
All these dangerous weapons, and he took a garden weasel to my head, and let me tell you, man, he is one big, like.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to start cursing, but I mean, I can call him cockstrong.
No, you can curse. This is uncensored. You can curse.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I am legit. Like, I'm over 6 foot. I'm probably between 6 foot, 6'1", and I felt like that guy towered me, and I was just like, maybe it's because I don't walk upright like I used to, because age kind of does that. But yeah, strong guy. I knew him he said that when I first came back to Jersey, and I hooked up with the guy that put me in his ECBW Hall of Fame, Gino Caruso was running. He said that he was in a battle royal with me somewhere in upstate New York, and I just jogged my memory, and I wish to God that's why, like, I try to tell even the older guys, I go, watch who's coming up, man. Like, I just fell victim to it. I didn't remember Claudio from then, or Claudio. I didn't remember Cassanova Valentine from then. You know what I mean? And that's to my own detriment. Yeah. And had I known he was into all the alternative stuff, like, that's a heavy metal / death metal bar. You see the strippers there and everything. Yeah. It's the kind of place that I would go and hang out at, probably at anyway. I have one of my best friends is one of the most straight-laced guys you've ever seen. He likes, like, old school, like, rock and roll. The other night, he just needed a break away from his significant other. I guess his old lady was kind of nagging at him. He went out to a club, and he said that he just danced. You know what I mean? Right. And he's the last guy you expect in a club. And I go, I go, bro, that's why I'm 45, and I still love the nightclub scene and atmosphere.
Right,
it's a party.
right.
You just do what you want to do, you know? Like, have a good time. If you want to be miserable, be miserable. You know?
Right.
There'll be other miserable people that'll come and hang out with you and be like, yo, man, I'm a bummer too. What's up? You know? Like,
right. Yeah. One more question on that match, and then we'll move on. The crowd. I know I've said this like 3 or 4 times, but I'm still fascinated by the crowd. Nobody got hurt. They didn't stop this from happening. You know, like the athletic board or whatever in New York, who I always hear is such a pain for boxing and wrestling. They didn't have, anybody there, trying to stop it because there's too many people, too dangerous, or anything like that.
No, because the lovely thing about, like, the entire environment and everything, and now I'm, like, talking with, like, a burning passion is, those people, they know what they signed up for. They know what they're there for. They know what they want to see. And the funny thing is, when we need room, they automatically would back up. I don't recall like, bumping into anybody. Or I don't recall anybody trying to hijack the show and be like, here, man, hit him with this. Like, they just let things be. It's a come-as-you-are kind of atmosphere. You know, it's a come-as-you-are, like, atmosphere, and it's the kind of people that, like, yeah, they love the rebellious rock and roll and shit like that, but it's organized chaos. Like, they know when in Rome, it's nothing. Nobody had to go up to them as drunk as they were, as many beers they had, as much green room as they had going outside. All these people were, like, so ultra respectful. Like, one guy's like, man, I'm literally giving you my last $20 for a T-shirt. And I'm like, help yourself to something else on the table then, man. Because I was like, I came into this world broke, and it's not that I barrel through money, but, like, if you're going to be that cool, man, I mean, you could be using that $20 for anything else.
Right. Yeah, it was an amazing night. I hope they do more like that. I haven't seen them do it since that night in April. Hopefully they do it again with either yourself or someone else. That was a fun night right there. And, it was amazing. The crowd was amazing. You would have thought somebody at some point in that match would have just got trampled over or, just went in the wrong direction at the wrong time by accident. And it didn't happen. It was something else.
The coolest thing about it was apparently, like, a lot of people did their homework because, like, coming up to me and approaching me, like, and I did, like, a couple interviews and stuff. And the one guy, like, rode me through the history of all 3 of the Gaijin, like, Leatherfaces. And he was like, then you did the press conference with Onita, man, and you fucking attacked him, and you attacked him. Like, I was like, oh my God, I almost forgot about that. Like, dude, like, that's incredible that you even know that. Like,
big fan.
Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I become a fan of you if you know that much. Like, that was so cool. But too, on top of the atmosphere, and everybody's, like, so, like, ultra respectful, and maybe it's the hair that kind of got me, because, like, one girl pointed out, she goes, yo, it takes some level of commitment. She goes, I'm not trying to be nasty, but, man, you got some grays in there. And I go, yeah, I'm 45. And she was like, you're a 45-year-old man who's so committed to what you're doing that you would walk around with all that hair every day in your life. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I kind of grew to like it. It's better than that stupid wig. It's better than that stupid wig and the rubber mask I had before. It was like, ugh. It was
when you had the short hair, right?
It was one of the younger guys at Matt Tremont's. He goes, hey, man, you're just walking around without the mask after the show. He goes, you never unmasked. And I was like, because when you put it on and off, I got to, like, bun it up, right?
Right.
And not only that, like, people were saying, like, how is the craftsmanship in that? Like, is it hinged? Like, the mask, jaw moves when you're talking and stuff. So I started, I took off the mask and I just showed how it was all put together. It was a John Bullard design. And John is, like, genius level. Him and the guy that wrestles as Tobita X, Christopher Martinez, Gravestone, the guy from the Rock group. He's fighting cancer right now. And those guys have, like, the most creative minds I've ever been around. And they're just lurking around on your local independent scene.
Right.
Like,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I I should screenshot it to you. Like Cole Cabana asked me, he's like, where did you get that? He's like, where did you get that guy from? And I was like, I was like, yeah, you met him, right? And he was like, that Christopher Martinez guy, like that guy did a Tobita gimmick under a mask, and I'm like, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm rambling again.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome stuff, though, right there. And it's funny you brought up the mask because I'm going to just go out of order. I have a list here, but you can go out of order. Speaking of masks, what do you think of Bray Wyatt, that Fiend mask that and that character? That's kind of taken the WWE by storm. You just haven't seen that there for so long. Maybe since Mankind or even something like that it's kind of like really, catching on with the fans.
Yeah, wrestling has always been about the gimmicks. Like one of the most talked about things was like that guy Boogeyman. And like that guy didn't wrestle. But I mean, he was such a gimmick and so out there that like, I got a ton of messages from the Bray Wyatt thing. They're like, yo, he's hijacking your chainsaw gimmick. And I'm like, more power to him. If he needs a chainsaw to get over, hey man, without that chainsaw, please, it's why I have several of them over there, because it's just, I got the loud one, I got the smoky one, I got the one that the blade is actually glued to the, then I got the live one that actually cuts things. Yoshiaki Yatsu, the guy that wrestled Hulk Hogan for like the WWF title, when they tried to relaunch the whole global like SWS thing, right?
Right.
So, yeah, like that guy, he contacted me and he goes, bring the chainsaw that you can actually cut, because I want you to cut through a table when you come up to, it wasn't Hiroshima. Oh, it was outside of Hiroshima. He had me wrestling. God, I forget the name of the small town. But, like stuff like that, like you got to adjust. And dragging that thing through train stations or even loading it into the back of a taxi and dragging it around, what a pain in the ass, eh?
Could imagine.
Yeah, the mask itself, like, I got to the point where, people were looking at me crazy enough, and if I had a double shot that day, I wouldn't take the mask off. So I'd ride on the train with the hood over my head. And, people are looking at me crazy enough for having the pants all ripped up and, the shirt and the tie and everything. But, it's so weird because, once in a while you'll sheepishly see like a Japanese guy go up to you and be like, I'm a big fan. I was scared to approach you. And I'm like, oh. And I'll turn around and look, and everybody on the train is like lined up to like just say something to me.
Right.
And I'm like, am I going to jail? Like, I'm wearing a friggin' mask.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Gimmicks are always, very powerful. The Bray Wyatt one definitely seems like it's going to be interesting where he goes with it. How long they could really keep the interest there. He's obviously using the mandible claw as well. To me, it seems like it's a couple of Mankind gimmicks, attached to it as well. But it's something that we haven't seen in a while in WWE, so it's definitely working.
Isn't that guy Abyss? Isn't he like one of the rogue agents up there?
I don't know. I heard that he didn't take the job. I don't know. I don't think he took the job with WWE. I could be wrong on that though.
To me, it's kind of like a cool offshoot of the whole Abyss thing. It's like
I forgot about Abyss.
It was the cool thing about going from like Leatherface to Chainsaw Tony when Onita did the whole thing where he said, I know who this guy is under the mask. I wrestled Tony Myers 1,000,000 times in WWS. And he goes, and you people aren't going to think that this promotion's giving him a big fat check as an American to come over here and spend his holidays and stuff. And he goes, so no, they're not making out the check to cash. He was like, everybody knows that ain't nothing but Tony Myers. Don't call this guy Leatherface. Call this guy Chainsaw Tony, because it ain't nothing but Tony with a chainsaw, and did the whole thing where I, attacked him because of that and everything. But like, to me, it was so much fun because I got to take the Leatherface gimmick and, be like, oh no, I mean, you think I'm Tony Myers, and, I already know how it's going to end, like the whole Fight Club thing. Like, it's going to be, if one of us retires, it'll be Tony Myers against Chainsaw Tony.
Right.
Like there's so much fun I could have with that alone.
Right. Right. Definitely. Wanted to ask you about, and you're gonna have to fill me in on this because you only see so much on social media. But what's the deal with Homeless Jimmy and Slammin' Stu? They're going to Japan. They're obviously targeting you.
Yeah, this is like the craziest thing I've ever seen because it's almost like herein lies like Leatherface or Chainsaw Tony and Tony Myers, like teaming up to go against like Jay Landry is Slammin' Stu from XPW, and everybody within the deathmatch realm knows who Homeless Jimmy is. Yeah. So it all started it was Survival Tobita. Masaru Tobita was running Unemployment Pro Wrestling, and that was out of this tiny little karate dojo in Kyoto. So Jay came with me, and you could see him in the crowd. You could see him standing there amongst like 30 diehard like fans in this tiny little karate dojo. And the next thing I know, it was like Chainsaw Tony is holding Kaito, and Jay hits him with a stop sign, like over the head. Right. Just, he blames, the Chainsaw Tony for not holding on to the guy, and Chainsaw Tony goes, for the trajectory, you had to have been swinging to hit me anyway. Like, right. I'm not that stupid. I might be crazy, but I'm not stupid. So then Chainsaw Tony winds up attacking Jay and just, choking him down. And that happened during a battle royal where Chainsaw Tony already beat Survival Tobita. The cops were called out there that night because the neighborhood people heard the chainsaw and, like, flipped out and were like, what the hell is going on?
Damn.
So even that is on that DVD. And it's one of those, the whole Unemployment Pro Wrestling thing comes. Jay, as the show's closing out, and these are the most diehard fans, and they're all lined up paying like $30-$35 for a ticket to watch this. Then Jay throws down the grandstand challenge of, I'm bringing in Homeless Jimmy. And Tobita tells the people, listen, you guys are really going to have to support this tiny little indie because, that's a lot of money to bring this guy here. So tell your friends, bring some people, continue to buy our shirts and DVDs and everything. And next thing I know, it has gone for the past, 9 months. And I heard apparently, tonight, Slammin' Stu and Homeless Jimmy are, cutting a promo on Chainsaw Tony and telling him that they're going to kick his ass. The whole thing is in reality, Tobita wound up getting a regular job, so he was like, I don't know exactly the dates, but, I've already purchased your plane ticket, and Homeless Jimmy went so far as to say, I don't need a ring. I don't even need a promotion. If I see you on the street of Japan, I'll kick your ass. Mm-hmm. And just basically went down and listed all the promotions while he's in town that Chainsaw Tony is going to be at, and he was like, I'm coming for your ass. So, wow. Because of, the attack on his manager. Right, so tell me, you couldn't make up stuff like this. It's insane. And I could just imagine them attacking the guy at church or something, or, there's a whole country out there where, I could be fishing one day and these guys attack me. Yeah. Like, imagine the very first, fish pro wrestling show, Right. Tell me that you've, he has...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to point out real quick, if you ever look up Survival Tobita, he's the guy that wrestled Ken the Box, and he has an enormous cult following, and it's just ridiculous. One time he faced, Casso Damon, and the guy had piles of shit all over him, and it was a guy that crawled out of the sewer. So This evil shit guy wanted to beat up Tobita and take over the whole world. And thank God Tobita, he defended this galaxy against that invader. So, you could see things get off the charts ridiculous, but good God, it's too much fun. Watching Tobita wrestle the lake monster in a river in Japan for 30 minutes with Naoshi Sano as the guest referee is pure greatness. Awesome. They're suplexing each other over waterfalls.
Wow. Yeah, so that's interesting. So they're going to be going there the end of October. You're heading back the middle of October, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Before I ask you about, just some basic wrestling stuff that's going on, and even one or two non-wrestling things I want to ask you about. What am I missing? What am I missing as far as what's going on with Japan? What you're going to be participating in when you go back there? Did we cover it all, or did I miss anything?
Yeah, like Big Bear Produce is another one that I throw out. He has a really, really good restaurant in right there in Winnow. So I always run into him. Tahara works at he's wrestled all over Mexico. Tahara is friggin' awesome. He's been under like so many different gimmicks. He's a shorter guy, not the best body, but man, bell to bell, that guy is like unbelievable. And he was like, hey man, anytime you want, we'll go. And Ice Ribbons runs stuff like very often, we'll just go to their dojo, wrestle each other, And
right.
I mean, it's a chance too to put the leather thing like on the side and be like, hey, here I am, Tony Myers wrestling in a man bun with regular tights. There was also SPWF. We have to see where they're going because the guy that I mentioned, Yoshiaki Yatsu, his booker is one of my best friends, one of the guys I go to church with at Chiriyaguchi. And like those guys are running pretty regularly, like up around Yokohama. So there's so much stuff to keep you busy. I'm not really looking forward to days off because even on days off, like I'll go to Animal Hamaguchi's gym and see what stuff that they're doing and, get a routine workout in. I'm back in my house now because the people that live in my house, they, church members, church people. And at the time, my now ex, she was getting into it with them. So it was like, now I get to sit on my couch. Now I get to sit on my couch every night, and I don't have to be in the middle of that drama because they had a big fall in it.
Yeah.
You see, even my personal life, it's like things unravel,
Yeah. Chaotic. All right. Let me ask you about AEW. What are your thoughts on that promotion? It's just getting started. They've done a big show. They have another big show that they did as well. They really did two, I guess. Another one coming up. They have a TV deal that looks like it's going to be pretty big on TNT in October, November. Very strong card. I mean, if you follow wrestling, you know who all these guys are. A lot of young talent. And also, guys like Chris Jericho, Cody Rhodes, obviously, who owns it. Dustin Rhodes, the Young Bucks, but then they got guys like Jon Moxley, Jungle Boy, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, MJF, Orange Cassidy, Joey Janela. A lot of talent here. Sammy Guevara. What do you make of this promotion? Will they be successful in your eyes?
You just mentioned a guy that I pop like hell for Orange Cassidy. The whole hands in the pocket, lazy wrestler is the funniest, craziest. And I come to find out he's trained from one of my best friends from back in the day, my old Jersey clique running buddy, Brian Wenzel's the one that like trained him. Yeah. And just tell me that isn't the funniest thing where he's like the lazy stone guy that doesn't want to wrestle, puts in no effort. Like it's even funnier that he's thin and he does that gimmick.
Yeah.
Like for it to be a fat guy, it'd be like, that could have been anybody. For the fact that he's skinny and lazy makes it even funnier. And then he comes out to like, he comes out to Jane,
Yeah.
But like AEW. Once the honeymoon's over, we shall see in the long run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Remember we covered before. I told you like every venture of Vince's outside of WWE has been a big failure, and it's like. That's because if there's one thing he knows, it's wrestling. Like, and that's probably been said on 20 billion other podcasts, but that's the God honest truth. And I mean, I want to see like routinely, like once the ball is rolling. I have friends that work there, and I'm not even a part of the U.S. scene really. So, it's like if I say something, it doesn't have to be with a grain of salt. That's just the way that it is, because like. I have no reason to kiss up to anybody here stateside. You know what I mean? So if I give like high praise to somebody, I think they've earned it. I'm not trying to get in through the back door with nobody, but
Right.
yeah, we will see, like, as a collective business and as a whole, like money-wise, because, now they're breaking out the six-figure contracts for independent guys. And
Yeah.
time will tell. Right now, it's so hard to predict. And wrestling in 2009 is so different from anything that we've seen before. It harkens back to the Jerry Lynn promo he cut at Ring of Honor one night when he, like, had a match. And after the match, he was, Nigel McGuinness, right? And he was just like, it's not even the same business anymore, and it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like dog years ago, the stuff that's already happened.
Yeah.
Something that happened last year feels like an eternity ago already, because so much is coming at you once. There's one thing I personally hate is when they do the zoom in or the shaking camera.
Oh, I hate
someone
that
told me,
too.
yeah, somebody sent me the link to, like, Sasha Banks coming back. And yeah, someone sent me the link to it, and I watched it, and I'm like, why the shaky camera? Everybody was saying, whoa, those chair shots were brutal. I wanted to see it. I didn't want to see a shaky camera.
They're trying to make it out like it's almost like a video game, like where you're supposed to feel it. Like it's almost like they expect your chair to vibrate as you're watching it. It's crazy. Doesn't that like mess up someone that has like seizures and stuff like that? I mean, that can't be good. I mean, you would think. I mean, it's not comfortable to watch. So. It bothers me. I know.
I didn't even want to go back and watch the chair shots. I was like, what's the point? Unless I watch it in slow-mo, and, it's just, that's one of those. Yeah, and I saw TNA do it like years ago, and I go, that's why I don't want to watch their product. It's just Impact, whatever the hell they're calling themselves now.
Yeah.
I watched the product like 3-4 years ago, just flipping through the channel, and like after about a minute of it, I'm like, the vibrating ring and the jerky herky, fucking pull in and pull back out while someone's taking a bump. And I'm sorry, I don't know, it turns me off to watching any product. It just does.
It takes away from what you watch. I mean, we want to see what's happening. We don't need all the theatrics of a camera, telling us what to think. That's really what it is. They're trying to, use the camera to basically say, these shots are, like you were saying, these shots are hard, or, this is chaotic. So the camera's zooming in and out, in and out, in and out. We can figure that out on our own. I mean, it's almost like insulting if you think about it.
Yeah, you remember when the Jarrett started up TNA and, the X Division and everything, and it was like, here was a product that looked like it just could not fail. And if there's something that Jerry Jarrett knows and does is wrestling. He's like selling knives on eBay and stuff like that, but like he made his money. He owns half of Hendersonville. He's built his construction company. So, I mean, and they found a way. They found a way. They were the only alternative right after ECW collapsed and right after WCW and all that stuff, and you're thinking like, this has to be the alternative. And just for the matches, quality alone from bell to bell.
Yeah.
But I think with AEW, it'll be different because so many of the core people, the Omegas, the Young Bucks, these are the people that love wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the Jon Moxley, Joey Janela match from the last big show that they had. It was awesome. I mean, they did everything in that. Barbed wire, thumbtacks. It was great. High spots and stuff like that. It was a great match. They're just not going to be able to do that on TNT, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't see it either. But who knows? They might try to put something out there that's like radically different from anything anybody's ever seen.
Yeah.
Just because they have the platform, they have the funds, they got the ball's rolling. They got everything going their way. I got a knot in my throat when I watched the end of after the match with Dustin Rhodes and Cody.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's me. That's me being drawn in again as like a fan to watch and go, wow, that was incredible.
Yeah.
It's like just raw emotion and man, you watch some of the legendary pops over the years and they just put such goosebumps. Look at the Hardys return at WrestleMania. I mean,
Yeah.
those are legit like goosebump moments where you're like, yo, you couldn't manufacture that. That was just like unbelievable how people lost it. And you're like, you take this silly little fake thing that all the critics and everybody else like sneers at and just like, oh, that's so like, you know, you'll get like coworkers and shit like, oh, don't be talking about pro wrestling. You know, it's like, nah, it has its moments. It really, really has its moments. Yeah.
It does.
Just raw emotion. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. We have to give it a chance. Let's see what happens. I mean, we can't really predict what they're going to do. We've seen glimpses of what they're going to do, and it does look good so far. But you know, they have to really endure the test of time and see if the fans keep coming back and keep watching, and you know, not just watch the debut of the show and then kind of fade away. But we'll see. It can't hurt. We know that. You know, more wrestling is always better. That's for sure. 2 or 3 more things I want to throw your way. Any opinion on Bischoff and Heyman running SmackDown and Raw? I mean, I guess, you know, they were really taking a lot of hits from the fans, you know, over the last year or so, as far as the shows just being really bad, being really boring. So bringing these 2 guys in, what do you think?
Yeah, really, really interesting. I mean, Paulie is a guy, if you've ever noticed, like, he's always kept up with the times. He's always been almost like ahead of the times.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see him hand in hand with Eric Bischoff. I mean, those are 2 of the most different, you know, I mean, if there's 2 people that are complete polar opposites, but, you know, Bischoff has always been a hustler, and who knows, maybe he'll break through and get him onto a bigger platform or whatever he could bring to the table. I mean, the both of the guys, minds alone, they should have this. I mean, this should not be an issue. I think the ratings needle started to go up here recently, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the last 2 months after they were announced, even before they really started, I mean, they've made a few changes. It's a little more edgier, not as kid-oriented as it was, and it's also just not as boring. They're not having the same matches every week, week after week after week. So they're definitely changing things up. I don't know if that's because of AEW. They feel like maybe there is a little bit of competition there, or they just got tired of hearing the complaints because the complaints were getting louder and louder, and it seems like they have calmed down a little.
Yeah, I've heard people complain about in this day and era, like the new age audience, how they kind of just hijack things. And no, it's because you're down to your core base and they want what they want. You know, and they'll be the most vocal. They'll be the most vocal about it. But you know what? Those are the people that, I mean, they really do get the ball rolling in a weird way. When you watch when Stone Cold first started to strike gold in WWF, it was like back in the day, it was that vocal minority that were like, "Yo, this guy's awesome, man." I mean, you seen this gimmick?
Yeah.
It wasn't just the casual fan drawn in. The casual fan got drawn in because they were like, "What is all this Stone Cold? What does this guy do? He beats up his boss and dumps beer all over him. Oh hell, you know."
Yeah.
And you can imagine you're off to the races. You know, you're printing your own money, but you know, let's just see. Time will tell. Now it is so early. I honestly wish him the best. It would be so neat to see and just, you know, I love the whole thing by people claiming that, you know, Vince McMahon, they're in cahoots, you know, AEW. Because a guy worth an estimated $4 million or $4 billion needs the help from another guy who's worth over $10 billion. You know, how in the world? Stop that, man! You don't really believe that.
You know who's doing most of that though? You know who's doing most of that is Vince Russo. He's basically doing shows on that. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he was.
I almost hate to say it, but it is so sad watching somebody from the height of what they were to being just so washed up that they're in there. He's in he's out in Colorado. He's in his wife's parents' basement doing that podcast. Or whatever he's doing. It's you know, it's like, stop that. You know, how bad is it? You know what I mean? Within the pro wrestling realm, everybody feels more, but Jesus, man, it harkens back to, like, I was watching, like, a shoot interview with King Kong Bundy, and they brought up Bret Hart, and he goes, Bret Hart in the documentary said his legacy, you know, like he's fucking, oh, Christ, I don't even know if I could curse on here or not.
No, you can.
He goes, yeah, I mean, he goes, like he's fucking Lou Gehrig going out there, his legacy. Yeah. What legacy? This guy made you champion. I mean, a legacy. Right. You know, it's like, it's the wrestling thing, it just breeds this, like, delusion within people's minds. It's like, yeah, you'll hear from, like, independent guys, and they talk about touring all over the world, or they just borrow somebody's, like, last name, and, you know, like they really believe that they are, who's a prime example? Let me just pull one out there. Like, that would be like calling yourself, like, Paul Backlund, and then saying, like, Bob Backlund's your uncle or dad or whatever. It's like, it's like, you know, and then you read their crap on Facebook, and you're like, dude, do they, like, sit around the Thanksgiving table? They're like, oh, Uncle Paul's telling his stories again, you know, or they're like, does he try to get his own legit family to believe this crap? You know?
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel that's the same thing with Cornette too. I mean, you know, he's a guy who, like you said, is an encyclopedia. He could be so positive for the business if he wanted, but instead he sits there, you know, almost every day, you know, complaining about anything that's not resembling 1989 wrestling that he liked.
Yeah, and good God, I mean, it's almost strange. Like, you hear people talk about, like, eras, like, in music and stuff. It's like, no, early 90s had a bunch of crap that was awful. I'm so glad I don't have to live through that again. It's like, you know, every now and then you stumble across, like, mid-90s, like the Bodyguard, where you know, where you stumble across a song or a movie and you're like, oh, that was tremendous. But I'm sorry, I sat through a lot of Joe versus the Volcano movies. And,
I remember that movie.
Yeah. I watched them, like, I'm a fan of, like, riff tracks. I watched them, like, pick apart Mariah Carey's Glitter. And it's just like, you watch that movie and you're like, oh my God, this is, like, terrible. Like, you know.
It's true. You know, there's all different tastes and stuff, and, you know, I guess everybody kind of always thinks back to the good and what they liked, and they forget the bad. It is what it is. Everybody has their own personality. You know, like you said, it's sad though sometimes when you see someone like a Vince Russo or a Cornette who, at one time, was very valuable to the wrestling industry, and then they've just been, you know, limited to just complaining about it, you know, nonstop. I mean, it's so unproductive, but hey, I mean, I don't know if they make money off it. I guess they do. I guess Vince Russo does make money off of that podcast, and I know Cornette does do appearances and stuff, so I don't know. It's strange, though. A lot of time they spend doing it.
Yeah, anybody out there could be, like, as anti social media as possible, but numbers don't really lie. You know, it's Cornette's numbers are strong because, I'll admit it, I listen to him, but Vince Russo is the kind of stuff that I just skip past the Vince Russo stuff, like, because Cornette is excellent as far as, like, you know, it harkens back to what I said before, like a wrestling encyclopedia. Same thing that Pogo used to tell me about me, but you know, it's like Cornette is so good on that old school, what was going on in his territory. Like, I find that fascinating. But when he goes on about the current product and about his opinions of this and that and the other, it's like, dude, if you reset professional wrestling and reprogrammed everybody not to be a smart mark, who the hell's done more, like, smart mark, like, shoot interviews than Jim Cornette himself? Like, how does that jive with what he's talking about, protecting the business? Oh, well, the paste is out of the tube. Yeah, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do about it? You going to do a podcast where you're trashing apart today's current scene? You know, it's like, and I remember, like, here's the thing, like, with me and podcasts. Like, I don't want to get too much on, like, sidetrack, but I was one of those guys. I never approached a podcast about like interviewing me, or because I never wanted to be like, never wanted to have my feelings crushed. Like, here I am chasing this guy down just to give him an interview, you know. But
Right.
so yeah, when the very first thing that opened up the floodgate was when I went on 605, Brian Last podcast, and I know that, like Brian told me, like Cornette was there, but he wasn't saying nothing during, and I just thought, if this fucker jumps in there, like 6 months after I lost my friend, mentor, the guy that was, you know, believed in me, gave me the Leatherface gimmick along with Onita, and, you know, and all this friendship and admiration I had for the guy, I was like, if Cornette jumps in there with anything nasty, like, I'll just let him have it. And I'll go through every single territory, which he wound up being on top of, every single one. And I'll tell him all the shit that Pogo did before he even picked up a seat, before he even picked up a fireball, before he did any of that crap. Like, I will be the first one. Like, and not only that, like, I will trash him to pieces because I know what I'm talking about. I was there. I seen it. I heard his stories. The guy never lied to me, ever. Like, there's a lot of stuff, you know, there was a lot of times when I disagree with him and fight with him, but, and there was a time where I walked off from him. And, you know, and by the grace of God, I was quickly rehired. But, yeah, I was like, I will gladly debate this guy on any level. I don't care. And, you know, he could take a shots at, you know, what a name I'm not, you know, stateside or whatever, but, you know, I've been around enough to know. But, you know, on like a note of him doing a podcast, I'm fascinated at times, some of the stuff that he covers.
Yeah. He could be, you know, he could be really good. I mean, if he just, I don't know if he's just trying to keep his name out there, because I've seen him say positive stuff about some of the wrestlers of today. It's just that, you know, if you veer off anywhere near something different, he gets so offended. He takes everything personal. It's very weird. It's a character flaw, I think.
Yeah, and you know, and with all the bad words he had, you know, had about Vince McMahon, that's living proof right there. If you're asked to induct the Rock and Roll Express, you know, you're going to do it, and you're going to behave yourself. And you're gonna, I guess that's the weird, funny thing where it falls under the umbrella of being professional. You know what I mean? Like, just because I don't lose my shit and beat up somebody who's acting like a complete asshole and who I know I could take and who should be listening, but they got to keep talking over me because they want to either impress me or maybe they think they're better or know more than I do or whatever. You know, just because I come back stateside and I get my kids situated, none of that means I don't know what's up. You know, I didn't forget everything.
Right.
And within wrestling, it's all universal. I would tell guys when I would like go to like physically wrestle them in the ring, I'd be like, listen, all this stuff is universal. One of the first times I went to Japan, and like even he was a young boy then, but I mean, he has since then been Mr. Pogo too, and you know, Hideki Hosaka. It was like I remember 1994. He was hanging around as a dojo boy. I was wrestling one of his friends who was 20 years old. He was the same age as me. And I was just blown away because it was like wrist lock, arm bar, side headlock takeover, head scissors, nip up, side headlock, wrist lock, into the full Nelson, into the quarter Nelson, chancery, reversal into the hammer lock. Like, all this stuff flowed so fast. Tight waist lock, you know, switch around, turn in, everything. We didn't know each other. We didn't speak each other's languages, but we just felt our way and figured it all out. Like, that is why, to me, pro wrestling is so universal. Like, that is so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, to know that you don't have to give somebody the office and they already know how to reverse. You know, it's like, wow. Like, this guy picks it right up, and his timing is impeccable. He sells, and then he looks for a way out and gets it. Like, that's That is so,
yeah.
And it's so cool how based off of that you can then give somebody a bump and they know when to get up, when to feed, which way, turns to the right, like, to me, that just fascinates me about professional wrestling. Like, it is so universal that somebody a half planet away that doesn't speak my language is dancing with me like this.
Right. It's amazing. It definitely is. One more thing before you go, Tony. I'm going to ask you a non-wrestling question before you go. Not only because I saw you post about it. You posted about the gun violence and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that? I want to get your thoughts on that. The mass shootings. Is it overblown? Do you think it's just all politics? What do you think?
There's always going to be people that sit around and they go, oh, it's in the Constitution. I mean, again, so much has changed since then. We're a very young country. We're not even 400 years old. How in the world do we, so much has changed since then. And obviously, it hadn't been for the better. You got to worry about somebody. The funny thing is I posted up there as a joke, and then it turned into like a political debate from hell with all the white people, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the white friends too that are like, and then my kid comments, and I started to post it, and then I told her, I go, it was like the one day she was joking around, she was goofing off and singing this, I'm a Latina, and I go, you don't have a drop of Latin blood in you, or she'll put up. Well, here's my oldest kid, she goes to Utica in upstate New York, and she goes, she had posted up on Facebook at one point, Team Light Skin. And I go, of course you're light skin. I'm white. Like, don't be goofy. You know what I mean? Like, your mom was 100% black. She could have put up there something, but you,
right.
So, even like she threw in her 2 cents. And I didn't want it to turn into like a debate about, but when you look at it, clearly there are our gun laws are just awful. It's embarrassing. I almost hate to say it. I go to Japan and people bring up the gun violence to me, and I'm like, ugh, oh no.
Yeah, like you have to explain it, right?
Yeah, and not only that, it almost feels. I always be proud to be American because my parents came off the boat, and I'm my first generation born here. And, me, myself, I'm a mutt. I got a whole bunch of different nationalities floating through me. But it's like our forefathers didn't break their back to have this, innocent people getting threatened by guns. Clearly, it's out of control. Mass shootings, what difference does statistically speaking matter? You think when one of these people grab a gun, they're aiming for white or black or Mexican? No. They're still letting that thing pop off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell me where the racism is in any of that. It's our lack of gun control. That's just, I'm sorry, I hate to say it as an American, it's embarrassing.
It is, yeah.
It almost makes you ashamed to be a part of the same species.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know what the answer is. I didn't want to try and figure it out, but I was just curious what you thought about that. It's definitely something that we're not gonna, see end anytime soon. It doesn't seem like, 'cause it doesn't seem like whoever's, running the White House or running Congress or whatever. I mean, it's still going on. It's been going on for many years now, no matter who's in there. So I don't see, what's gonna happen to really stop it. I don't see any ban coming or anything like that, no matter who's running the, the government.
Yeah, but I mean, impressionable youths and people of all ages, they shouldn't have to feel like they're in fear that some, crazy, mass shooter is going to stop in at anywhere that you're at.
Yeah.
It's not come to that point of like fear, but what it's come to is the point where people are like, what, what? I have several friends from all over the continent, Africa, right? All different countries. And even to explain to them, like, they're like, you look at it, America looks like the greatest, freest nation. And I go, people take advantage of it. Are you kidding? Like poorly, too. Like, without any pride, without any family pride, without any pride within themselves. Hey, things aren't going right for me. I'm going to take out a whole bunch of people because I'm an outcast or I'm a weirdo. is one thing I kind of sort of credit myself is on, like, if I've been an outcast and a weirdo, I found other outcasts and other weirdos to kind of sort of bond in a weird way with.
Right.
You know, like maybe that's just me personally, but you know, we're all individuals. Not everybody's going to feel accepted. Not everyone's going to be accepted. It's a period. It's a bad adjustment for me when I got to come back to America, and it's weird having people like talk over me.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's just you have to accept it. And then the funny thing was, before I walked out of my corporate job back in 2017, you know, at one point I owned my own Domino's. And then they kept me on as, you know, training new management and all this other stuff. I was around a lot of Pakistan, and I was around a lot of Indian folks. And to hear their views was like just bizarro world.
Yeah.
You know, it's like just open-end racism. Now, when I go to Japan, I experience a lot. When I go to Japan, I experience a lot of open-end racism. But you know what? It's their country, their culture. Let them do as they want. I don't belong there. You got something to say, hey, give my hand to God, you know, hey, that's great. You had the balls to come say it to me. Like, you know, here I am, take your best shot. I hope I'm still standing because, you know, I'm not going to lay down for, you know, it is almost humiliating when someone Japanese shows you a gif of, like, you know, Donald Trump going, she was making comment about the size of my hands. And you're going, you know what, throughout all of the presidency of all these men conducted themselves as gentlemen. You see Donald Trump, and he's got this New York attitude, hey, oh, you know, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. At least carry yourself as a leader. At least carry your, you know, I'm not saying he's the problem, but, you know, as far as gun laws and gun violence, it's just, that's ridiculous. Yeah. But then there's other people, you know, you can take every cliche and every catch and every, you know, phrase that you've heard, don't tread on me, and, you know, and you could almost have a battle with those alone. You know, guns don't kill people, and, you know. Right. So, you know, that's like blaming a spoon because a person is morbidly obese. You know?
Right, yeah. That's true. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, you're right. You know, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't see any resolution coming anytime soon, but we can only hope. You know, that's all we have is hope. It's a crazy world right now.
And the frightening thing is, you know, in Japan, I go to a lot of the churches, and it really gives me a chance to just be thankful. You know, even if you don't believe in a higher power, whoever, maybe I'm just being thankful to myself that all these people have been so great to me. And, you know, hey, Tony, if you're ever having a rough problem, man, my house is open to you. You know, this is when I'm overseas. And they're talking to a total, hey, look at me. I'm definitely a square that ain't fitting in that round hole. You got to kind of chew and gnaw at my edges, you know, to get the ending. But, you know, I mean, come on. It's just, I approach it with hope, and I just,
you have to.
I hope that, like, I used to tell people all the time when I did a lot of the death matches, I'm like, I do that so you don't have to. I would rather do that than take any kind of crazy violent impulses and take it out on an innocent human being. It's just across the street. Oh, yeah. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a way of getting it out of my system. Maybe me going to the gym is a way to get some of that burning anger every time I got to bite my tongue, anytime somebody insults me, or, you know, dealing with what I deal with. You know, maybe that's just my therapy, or maybe I'm just wired that way. But I can't imagine what goes through a human being's mind when they're so full of rage that just, you know, completely innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
You know?
Just take them out.
Like,
it's crazy.
But give them a gun or give them a knife. I mean, hell, they're obviously not of sane mind being able to pull that off.
Right. No, you're right.
It's like it's like suicide. Okay, this hits home with a lot of us because we all have people that we love and or know, and you know, it only works when you're bluffing. Number one, and number two, you're not going to talk that person off the ledge. It's not going to just take the. If it only took that one person, and hey, reach out, and you ever notice like at the time of suicide, all of your friends now become clinical experts in the field of human psychology of the mind. I can't fix myself.
Right. It's true. It is. It's a weird world. Hopefully things do get better though, but we can only hope. All right, Tony. Want to thank you for coming on. We're gonna talk next month. Next month, September. Maybe we'll sneak one in October too before you go. How long are you staying in Japan, by the way? Are you staying there a good amount of time?
Well,
or you're not sure?
Well, what happens is I turn 46 in January the 27th, and they go, well, we're not going to keep you. We're already keeping you Christmas. We're already keeping you Halloween. We're already keeping you Thanksgiving. We're already keeping you New Year's Day. Oh, man, you talk about stuff I could talk about. I would have to tell you alone just what I went through on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day in Japan. Complete batshit insanity to tell you just to commute from that story alone. But, so they want to give me my birthday. So I'm like, and I'm really thinking like, what would happen if, I wrestled in Nigeria maybe 7-8 years ago? What would happen if I went back there and just kind of cleared my mind of things and just kind of walked around and tried to figure things out?
Right.
Before eventually returning back to Japan again and seeing all my friends and everybody else, like, what if I just had that break instead of going straight back to America and straight back to work?
Right.
So I seriously contemplated that. Just go to small countries in Africa, maybe go to the churches, maybe just travel, and take something off your mind. Like, for once in my life, once my kids are situated with college and their funds, and, my car's paid off, my house in Japan's paid off, I'm trying to say, like, maybe I should take just some pocket change and go from place to place and just try to figure things out, in my life and that kind of thing. It's not the hysteria of wrestling and being at the gym and meeting up with friends and everything else I do in Japan. It'll be a break from that.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
I've given that serious consideration to being like a birthday present to me.
Okay. So,
I know
you're
that
not sure. You're not sure. You're open to when you're coming back to the United States.
Yeah, and then too, I have my parents in my ear, like, we're older now, and your brother and sister can only watch after the house so long when we're gone, and they have the sophisticated like camera and stuff in their house and everything, and I try to get over to my parents' house and see them as often as I can, but it's just it's I don't want to interrupt their life. They seem so happy around each other. They've been married, Christ, almost 60 years.
Yeah.
But watching them now and watching them age is just like, it's not sad. It's I'm hoping that they get the most out of their life,
Yeah.
But they'll start fussing at me going, you need to watch after the house too. Your brother and sister and cousin, they can't do all the work,
Right. I hear you. All right, Tony. So we'll talk next month. We'll go month to month, and then we'll see what's going on.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. There's you can tell there's just so much of my chest to get off. So I never really had the opportunity or the platform, and with what you got, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you got the whole network and shirts and models, and it's incredible. Nothing that I could ever pull off.
I appreciate it, Tony. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, man, why not? I'll just be blunt about it. I'll suck your dick a bit. It's the God's honest truth. It's not nothing, it's not nothing I could have pulled off myself. I don't know anything about that. All I can do is just share with people a lot of crap that I've been through, a lot of passion over common sense is what it is. Really.
Well, you have a home here, Tony. You come on whenever you want. Definitely look forward to, doing the monthly show. And when you're overseas, you're overseas. We'll just, we'll get back on track when you come back. And, we'll, like I said, we'll just take it month by month.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. Even over there, I could probably do it with the messenger thing and, probably do that whole thing with you. I mean, it should be a lot of fun. I could do on location. And there was a guy that definitely. Well, there was a guy that interviewed me in Ribera's Steakhouse, for 2 parts of his podcast. So, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
No doubt.
Definitely. All right, Tony, I appreciate it. We'll talk next month. Thank you.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tony. Bye.
Thank you once again, all right?
You've been listening to the Team Left Jab United Radio Network. Check out our site at leftjaballnightboxing.com for the latest in boxing, wrestling, and all sports. leftjaballnightboxing.com for the latest in boxing, wrestling, and all sports.